Whether you are the CEO of a large multinational corporation or a middle manager at a small firm, you cannot afford to allow complexity to flourish in your organization. It compromises results, hampers your employees, and confuses customers. Since complexity often is rooted in leaders' behaviors and aspirations, executives can work strategically to undo it. That task begins with recognizing the 4 factors that drive complexity. 1. Structural mitosis. When you tweak a structure within your organization, you start a chain reaction. The ways people communicate, use time, and find comfort in their work all will shift. With these shifts come new problems, costs, and layers of complexity. 2. Product and service proliferation. When you add a product or service, you create to-do lists for other people, such as marketers, lawyers, and designers. 3. Process evolution. When managers change a process without having a complete internal understanding and without negotiating goals and intentions, complexity generally increases. Why? Because a process affects everyone who uses it. 4. Managerial behavior. If you manage people, you shape their work. You determine what's due and when. If you're not incredibly careful, for example, if you don't clearly define the task or timeline, you will generate complexity. Spotting and solving. Structural complexity. When you add a department to your organization or make changes in an existing department, you contribute to structural mitosis. Complexity doesn't come out of the air, bosses build it into an organization's design. Executives, in spite of their best intentions, often make 3 fundamental errors when designing their companies. 1. Putting structure before strategy. Setting up clear reporting paths is the right thing to do. Making tactical adjustments during the course of business seems logical. But both actions risk causing more complexity if they don't align with the strategy that will actually help your firm thrive. Strategy is job 1. 2. Bending for people and personalities. When you design a position or a structure within your organization, you have the opportunity to increase clarity. Often, though, managers tend to reshape jobs or structures to suit their current staff. If you design positions to help employees compensate for their shortcomings, rather than to help them stretch and improve, you build in adjustments now that will cause trouble later. 3. Choosing mechanical rather than organic designs. If you coordinate your firm around a traditional organizational chart, chances are your ideal plan won't match the reality of how your company really works. A firm is not a machine with a static blueprint. Design for movement is needed and simplify your plans accordingly. To counteract organizational design flaws, identify your firm's core, the parts of the business most directly related to executing its strategy. Nurture that core. It is different from the elements of your work that play a supporting role, and that you can move off the front burner or outsource if necessary. Pay attention to the customers who want your products or services. Determine how to simplify their purchase transactions. Take an outside-in view to find and eliminate anything that comes between your customers and their wish to do business with your company. Then, chop away at hierarchy, effectively delayering your firm by increasing your manager's span of control. This will give them more people to supervise, but less control over them individually. With more staffers, supervisors can't possibly micromanage everyone. Instead, they must influence and lead their staff. And their employees have to grow and take charge of their own work. Delayering also aids company-wide communication. Every time you remove a layer, communications become clearer. Spotting and solving. Product proliferation. Reason would dictate that managers should try to please customers by continually tweaking products and services. After all, a company has to stay ahead of its competitors. However, product-related changes can hurt your bottom line by causing the following problems: volume complexity. If you're manufacturing or readjusting a large number of products or services, chances are those offerings are creating lots of motion in your company. For instance, if you change a product label so it will stand out, you activate a small army of designers, advertisers, and analysts. The fact that firms are much more comfortable adding products than subtracting products further drives complexity. Support complexity. When your customers are alone with your products, unpacking them in their homes and getting ready to use them, they move through a critical moment when they try to assemble and employ your merchandise. If the assembly goes smoothly and the product works, you're in luck. If not, your company has come down with a case of support complexity, because that consumer is going to want you to fix the problem. System complexity. Does your product play nicely with other products customers need to make it functional? Your product's value is tied up with your buyer's experience of it. If it doesn't work with integrated products, the system is too complex. Design complexity. An engineer's simplicity could be a customer's complexity. If you design your product with an engineer's eyes rather than a customer's, you will design a product that only an engineer can love and use. Like structural complexity, product-related complexity is rooted in human choices. Since managers contribute to excess intricacy, they can rein it in. One approach is portfolio analysis, analyzing your products or services to reduce clutter. Regardless of the tools managers use, they need to see product life cycles as natural. This will help them make tough choices about eliminating or substituting offerings, choices often clouded by emotion or corporate traditions. The SKU or stock keeping unit is another place to reduce product complexity. This number is a tracking device for each product from birth to sale. The SKU is particularly useful in getting a handle on complexity because it is uniquely generated for every slight variation of a product or a service. Tracking SKUs can show you how out of control certain products or services have become as a result of tweaks or innovations. If you engage your marketing unit continually to advertise each new variety of a product and your finance department to keep track of each variety, you want to be certain that your customers are enthralled by each choice. Consider inviting them to help design your products. Turn them into an advisory board. Get their feedback. Customer engagement can yield products that are streamlined to meet people's actual needs, not your potentially complex interpretation of their needs. Spotting and solving. Process complexity. Processes can be a great source of simplicity or a burgeoning swamp that is nearly impossible to navigate. Be aware of 4 kinds of process problems. 1. Local differences. An international company wants consistency, but for local branches to execute their work, their managers must apply standards that make sense too. Multiplication of steps and loops. Managers must prevent errors from happening, especially more than once. However, reviewing processes that lead to mistakes can, unfortunately, often lead to new twists, new stopgap and additional steps that ultimately become the accepted way of doing things. This is how process complexity ossifies. 3. Informality of process. Some design is intentional, and some design just kind of happens when people apply a random or personalized process to a repeating task. When that becomes a way of life in your business, it can produce inefficiencies. 4. Lack of cross-functional or cross-unit transparency. If your teams commit only to their own parts of a process, without taking the whole routine into account, they might succeed in doing their tasks, but fail at achieving excellence in the larger process. Optional strategies for simplifying your processes include learning from the best practices in your organization or at other firms. This may involve researching other firms' approaches, inviting their managers in to brainstorm about processes and practices, sending your supervisors on site visits, or hiring an expert. You could also map your processes to give insiders a clear view, so they can suggest changes. In some cases, your procedural manuals already outline step-by-step processes, but often these undertakings are altered over time. Mapping can lead to a more detailed analysis. Sometimes these call for the intense training needed to implement Six Sigma or Lean, which are the full Monty ways to craft error-free, time-efficient processes. Opening stubborn process logjams may call for a rapid results attack, a surge of intense activity focused on blasting through process trouble points. This works in the short run, but needs to be part of an ongoing effort, not a one-shot deal. But a single focused push may give you a good start. The workout approach combines initial, immediate improvements with establishing a culture of ongoing process simplification for the long term. Used by Jack Welch at General Electric, it relies on employee town meetings to find and eliminate unnecessary effort. You can use a workout to intensify and expand logistical improvements suggested by best practice research, mapping, and other strategies. Spotting and solving complexity causing behaviors. Leaders can cause or solve complexity with their decisions on organizational design, products, and procedures, but the way they lead is also important. Over time, they may overemphasize strengths that once were fruitful, such as pushing individual accountability over teamwork, or being collaborative but vague about planning, but that are now irrelevant or even harmful. The way you set strategy, for example, may be causing complexity. One potential pitfall involves the relentless search for the perfect strategy. You won't find it. Business moves too fast. The quest for the ideal strategy can cause complexity if you try to collect too much data, make too many promises, or insist on excess analysis. Managers also define goals, another common practice that can go wrong. Some lay out simple objectives that help motivate people. Others posit fuzzy or abstract ambitions. Your goal setting can go awry if you promote a target and then allow it to slide, if you hint that you don't care if it really happens, if you can't penalize non-compliance, or if you shoot for an end that is too far off or immeasurable. You will also undermine your objectives if you negotiate them by letting people duck other work in exchange for completing the goals you've set. Putting it all together, all these ideas about simplicity can become overwhelming. To create a true architecture of simplicity, you must make it a priority by positioning it as a business imperative and explaining how vital it is to your firm. Once you make a clear case for simplicity, you should start with the root of your concern, whether it is structure, products, processes, or behaviors. Pursue activities that allow people to experience the benefits of simplification quickly. Showcase the results as they occur and provide incentives for more progress. Promote people who can make simplicity happen. Then start over. Drive simplicity as part of the way you and your firm do business. As a leader, you can make simplicity an imperative or let complexity drift. You can speak out about complexity that detracts from your mission, or you can remain silent. Your actions matter. If you tolerate ineffective meetings and meaningless emails, if you ignore customers' demands for simplification and don't lead change, then you are tacitly approving complexity and rejecting simplicity. The move toward simplicity starts simply with you.